A lot has changed since Tiger Woods captured the Masters in 2019. That was last April. So you got 18 months ago that Tiger won, and he's the defending champ, although it doesn't feel like that. And it felt like at the time Tiger was going to make one more run at Jack Nicklaus's record for majors. But it didn't happen. Tiger didn't build any momentum. He's still at 15 and counting. That's 3 short of Jack's mark. And he's won only one tournament since then. And that was over a year ago. In the meantime, you got a new type of golfer who has arrived on the scene. Bryson DeChambeau, come on down. He's a force, redefining what golfers are able to do with length. Sound familiar? Because it was a couple of decades ago when a young Tiger Woods changed everything with his power. And then prior to that, it was a young Jack Nicklaus who was changing golf. I watched Shell's Wonderful World of Golf yesterday, and it was Sam Snead versus Jack Nicklaus at Pebble Beach. And I was just curious. Jack's playing with one of those persimmon woods, and you got to hit it right on the button to hit it far. And he was out driving Sam Snead, and Jack was around 23 years of age. Jack was hitting the ball over 300 yards at Pebble Beach. Now, I was just curious of how far he was hitting it on that course, because I've played the course many times, and I wanted to see where Jack was hitting it back then when he was 23 years of age. And he ended up beating Sam Snead by one shot. He made a birdie putt on the 18th hole. But Nicklaus back then was hitting it 290, 300 yards. Not a lot of other players were doing that. Now everybody hits it 300 yards. Bryson DeChambeau will hit a drive this week. That will be 400 yards, in my opinion. He will be 9-iron wedge with a lot of these, not par 4s. He's going to have that, but par 5s, he might have a 9 or an 8-iron. That's not the way the course is meant to be played. You cut off corners, and he's going to have looks at eagles this week. Now, it still comes down to his wedge play, which is still suspect in my opinion, and can he putt? But you go back to the U.S. Open when, we had that at Winged Foot. He blew away everybody. He was 6 under par. Nobody was under par. He's going to try to take down this course and overpower it, but it's a tricky course. You think you can take it down with power. It still comes down to finesse. And those caddies, and I had a caddy who he caddied for Seve when Seve Ballesteros won at Augusta. And I had him one day when I played. And he said, just listen to me. Because what you see and what I tell you are going to be two different things. And I go, okay, second hole, par 5. He said, put it over here. I go, but he goes, I said, put it over here. And I go, okay. I put it over there and then rolled up by the hole. And then he just looked at me and he goes, don't do that again. And he was serious because he said it's an optical illusion. There are times when you look and you go, that can't be right. And it is. So Bryson DeChambeau, he has some experience there, but it always comes back to these guys who have played it 10, 15 times. And I'm talking about competitively. And there's something different about it. That local knowledge, because they play this every year. And you can go down there prior to the tournament and you can play it. It's going to look the same. It won't sound the same. And I wonder about Tiger Woods this week, because even with that experience, that local knowledge there, is he healthy enough to win this? And Bryson DeChambeau is going to be fun to watch. But Tiger's dangerous on the course, magical season or year moment in 2019, and he proved his doubters wrong. Can he prove his doubters wrong once again? Here's Tiger Woods reflecting back on a previous Masters that he won. He was talking about a couple of them. He got emotional talking about 2019.
That was one of the most, I still getting chills just think about it. Feelings, coming up 18 and, to see my family there, my mom and my kids and all the people that helped support me or were there for me during the tough times. And I was walking up there to just try not to lose it and say, hey, I still got to 2-putt this. And then when I walked off the back of the green, to see Charlie there and just open up our arms, and it meant a lot to me, and it still does. And just reminded me so much of me and my dad. And to come full circle like that, it still gives me, a little teary.
That was an awesome moment. Because you go back to 1997, and he blew everybody away. And his dad said, look, he's special. Told us all along he's special. He proved he was special. And to see Tiger sort of fall into his father's arms and say, I did it for you. We did it together. And then you go full circle, 2019, he has his son who's there and able to celebrate with his dad. And where Tiger was the previous decade to get to that point is more amazing, I think, than what he did the first 10 years of his career. Because I always wondered, what would we remember? What's more amazing, what Tiger did the first 10 years or the next 10 years when he didn't do anything? And the second 10 was so surprising. He had injuries, he had issues, substance abuse. He had a lot of things going on. And then for him to win last year in April, remarkable. And I don't know where he's going to be. I don't know where he's going to be this year, next year, the year after that. You wonder if he didn't have any issues. Off the record, off the course, all of those things. Like everything that happened, sort of happened, you heard happen. All of those stories. And even some stories that never went public that I would hear. He would have all the records. And he may still have all the records. But that body was going to break down eventually. I think everybody who was watching golf said you can't have that kind of swing and have it last for a long time. And it broke down because you put so much pressure, so much torque on that left knee, and he eventually broke down. And he refused to modify his swing. He'd get out there and go, oh, he's got a bad back or he's got a bad this, and he'd swing out of his toes because his ego got the best of him. He saw these guys who were in diapers when he was bombing it. And all of a sudden, he raised an entire generation of bombers. And he's probably looking around going, am I responsible for Bryson DeChambeau? Because Bryson DeChambeau basically said, I'm going to swing as hard as I possibly can. He said, I'm going to add 20 to 30 pounds. Like he told everybody this and then went out and said, okay, now watch me. And he's hitting the ball farther than anybody. Those long drive champions have to be looking at Bryson DeChambeau going, maybe we need to subscribe to what he's doing. But Bryson DeChambeau is taking the long drive contest to the PGA Tour and this week to Augusta. But we'll talk to Brandel Chambly about this. And I don't know if he agrees with me. But we know how Augusta is. The Masters, they control it. What you see, if there's commercials, we're going to be commercial free, whether we let in minorities, let in women, whatever it might be. Augusta controls their own little world there. And I think one day Augusta goes, if you play here, you must play with the ball that is up to our modifications. Because TaylorMade is still going to have their golf ball and Callaway and Titleist. But I'm wondering if Augusta says, to play this event, your golf ball must comply with our standards here. Because I would hate to see that golf course be brought to its knees. I love seeing Augusta Sunday back 9. And you hear the birdies. Now, and I'm talking about literally you hear the birdies, but you also hear the roar of those who make the birdies or watching those who make the birdies. You never want to lose that. It's one of the magical sounds in all of sports. Sunday at the Masters, the final 9. And I just wonder what's going to happen if it's just going to be target practice in the next 5 years. What are those scores at Augusta going to look like? And Bryson DeChambeau is going to be pretty much the litmus test to go, all right, you can hit it 350, 400 yards. Like there are certain holes where you go, how is he hitting it there and has that to the green? And I'm not saying I'm a good golfer, but I know where you have to hit it, how far you have to hit it, and then what you have in as your next shot. It's remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. And those par 5s, yes, a lot of them you can go into, the risk and the reward there. And I wonder if they start to do things for the risk and the reward at Augusta. Maybe modify the ball and maybe make it a little bit more penal if you hit it, off center. But that's the key. You can hit it 350. but are you in play when you hit at 350? And if he hits at 350 in play, and he's got wedges and 9 irons and 8 irons in there, and everybody else has a 6 or a 5, it's a huge difference. But you have to make your putts there. I don't care how far you hit it. You got a great wedge play, and you got to be able to putt. And that'll be fun. But I'm all for the modern athlete and technology. I understand all of those things. I think you got to be careful. Too much of a good thing. It's like baseball when baseball juiced up the baseballs. Did you need to? No, you didn't. But they did. And then they realized, and we're kind of making a mockery of this thing here. How about we're going to buy Rawlings, and we're going to create our own plant there, make our own balls there. Too much of a good thing? I always worry about that. Yeah, Paul.
Going back to DeChambeau, he's aware of what happened to Tiger Woods with his back injuries and getting too big for your body with the sport. Do you think a guy like him thinks, well, I'd rather have a great 5 or 6 year run and see what happens on the back end of it than just plod along and be a good golfer? It appears that he's got to be aware of what being that big can do to your body long term as a golfer, but maybe he's going for that 5-year window of let's get some majors.
Well, he's into science. He's into technology, analytics, and I'm sure he's even thought about that of what's this going to do to my body. But if you watch him swing, we've all gotten up there and tried to swing as hard as possible. And it always felt the harder that I was swinging, the worse the result was. There's something about, and watching this Shell Wonderful World of Golf with Sam Snead, who I think has the greatest swing of all time. And, Jack was, he's a force. At 23, Jack was swinging out of his shoes. And Sam Snead was 40 or 50 yards behind Jack Nicklaus on some of these holes. But Sam Snead won, 80 times on the tour. I played with him. We were outside of Roanoke, Virginia, and I went to visit him to do an interview with Sam Snead. And he was, I guess, in his 70s maybe. We went to the driving range. It was magical. It was so special to watch him. He had the most fluid swing. He was a great athlete. And he'd say, what do you want? You want a low draw? I'll give you a low draw. He had a 6-iron. You want a high fade? I'll give you a high fade. It was just easy for him to do. And he played until, I think, competitively, close to 70 years of age. But Bryson DeChambeau, that's the new athlete. And we'll see how Augusta stands up to him, if Augusta is able to do that.